First step in seeking investors is actually a decision by the entrepreneur that they would like to have other owners in their company, because an investor, as opposed to a lender, is an owner. So they're going to be a partner, and an owner would like a long-term relationship, typically with the company, and would like information about the current and future state of that company. So it really comes down to a decision that is the entrepreneur open to having those types of relationships. Once you reach that point, then you kind of need to think about it as a bit of a process as opposed to just an event. And so strategically think about what your objectives are in the short, medium, and long term, what your needs are, and then begin a search of the multitude of investors that are out there. But I take it back to a decision that you really would like to take on, a partnership, owner type long-term relationship with specific individuals or institutions that are aligned around your goals and objectives. In the early stages of a company, whether you're a technology-based ICT company or maybe plans for some sort of manufacturing facility in which you have large assets and buildings, equipment, those things, typically that early stage is called seed financing. And in the seed financing stage, you will be referencing and leaning on friends, families, very key suppliers who may be willing to give you smaller amounts of money to help you reach various milestones, which may be as simple as writing a business plan, securing a lease on a piece of equipment, opening up doors, making 2 trips to a marketing show to understand, is this worth it? So that's in the early stages. You'll go on the seed. Then you may, even in this early stage, you might move then to a thing called development type financing. And in the developmental type financing, you would be leaning on, again, probably some of those same folks and institutions that were involved in your seed financing. And then other groups that typically come to play are government organizations, have various economic development programs. You would lean on suppliers, key suppliers would start to show up, and maybe other partnerships that are out there. That will be very similar to both. As you move to the later stages of development, and between those two, there's a big gap, there's a big hurdle to get over, and often a long period of time. As you move to the later stages of, let's say, a company that's up and running, and maybe we're in growth mode as opposed to startup mode, you would then look to the banks. Traditional bank financing may come to play. Equity funds, known as private equity, and typically that could be venture capital type financing or private equity funds, depending on the type of your company. It's a pretty big decision to consider with respect to equity or investors, owners. It's a big decision to bring those owners on board. So I think you really need to focus on what your individual goals and objectives are for your company, and try to align those with those investors that you're bringing on board. There are a lot of investors available in the marketplace, but like all things, they may not align with your objectives, and gaining that alignment is very important. When it comes to debt financing, which is more of a short-term perspective, it's important to understand that debt financing, the most important consideration for those types of institutions and individuals, the question becomes, will you be able to pay back my money? So they really focus on the historical view of the company and the ability of the company to generate cash flows that can pay back my debt. If they don't see that availability, then debt lenders are typically not going to participate in your company.